Hello everyone, I'm Bruffy1322 and welcome to the Stewards room, where we'll be taking a look at racing incidents submitted by you guys and trying to make a determination on who, if anyone, was at fault. There's a link in the description to submit your own clips, and feel free to check out the playlist link for more of these videos, specifically the first, which acts as a scene setter. Also keep an eye out for cards popping up on screen towards the end of each segment where you can vote on who you thought was at fault for each incident. So, first clip, it's your classic inside overtake on GTA, and we're going to try and determine who was at fault for this one because it was pretty close. So let's in fact before we slow it down, let's have a look at the rules of racing document first. So here we are with the rules of racing document that we always look at, and we're going to see something that comes up most of the time when it comes to who has the racing line, disputes over the apex. If the attacker is more than halfway alongside at the apex, then any collision is the fault of the defender. If the attacker is less than halfway alongside, any collision is the fault of the attacker. And if the attacker is approximately halfway alongside at the apex, then any collision is the fault of both people, and it's considered to be a racing incident. Now, obviously, just to point out, you're not allowed to have gotten to that position by way of a dive bomb, which is carrying too much speed into the corner so that you wouldn't have made the corner in the first place. But yeah. Those are the rules that we see every time. Let's go back to the clip. So I've slowed it down, and we're obviously coming into the left-hander. We're up the inside, but because obviously we're in an 811 here, which isn't as good around the corners, so we're braking earlier than the T20 on the outside. The T20's also got the line. Obviously, the racing line is on the outside there. Turn in, cut the cross like that, and then blue is trying to go up the inside and affect an overtake by stopping the car on the outside from turning in. So at the point of contact here, you would have to say that was the way that it looks here. It looks like its front tire of blue hits the rear tire of let's say green. It's kind of a grey-green, but we'll say green. So on first look, that looks like it's blue's fault. He wasn't far enough alongside at the apex. He, hit the back end of the green car and spun him around, which I think is reasonable. The only thing that I want to play is a little bit of devil's advocate, as I always try to do, and spark a bit of a discussion, is that they are sort of level at this point, but naturally, because the car that the blue is in, the 811, isn't as good under braking, it does have to brake earlier, so then it loses more distance as we're closing in. Now at this point, you have to take into account the fact that blue, he is there. He's not just disappearing, he's braking. So really the smart thing to do for the green car, well, grey-green, would have been to take a bit more space around the outside, because he can't expect the blue to just disappear. But as I've sometimes said during this series, doing the smart thing or not doing the smart thing doesn't necessarily always mean that you're in the wrong. So even though the T20, the green car, really should have, for the smart decision, left more space because the 811, the blue car, is not going to disappear, I can't really say that it was anybody's fault but the 811, because he was the one who put him into that, who was in that situation. It was just a bit of a miscalculation, I would say. And, different cars are going to have different strengths and weaknesses. Obviously, the 811 gets a run because it's got a better, straight line speed, but then it's not as good in the braking zone. So you have to take that into account when you're trying to effect an overtake. And obviously, that's not what happened. It was just a bit of a miscalculation. The angle, obviously, as well, the racing line is coming here. Oh, bloody hell, what on earth? The racing line is coming along there, so the T20 is just following the racing line as he should be, but the 811 is still travelling in this direction when really he should be kind of aiming towards the apex at least. And yeah, it's kind of just a little bit of a messy mistake, I would say, from the blue car to sort of not back out of that situation a bit earlier, because I don't think you can really expect that you're going to get an overtake done with the worst braking that the 811 has over a T20. Obviously, if you don't know that, then that is what it is. But it's something that you probably would know, having driven this car for a while and racing with it. So yeah, I think it's close. It's certainly, I would say that I could certainly see you guys choosing any option on this. There will be a poll in the top right, and you can vote on who you thought was at fault for this incident. Was it the blue car? Was it the green car? Or was it just a racing incident? Was nobody at fault? Would you put it down to that? I can certainly see people saying all options for this one, to be honest, but for me, I think this is more on blue than it is anything else. Maybe a racing incident at the very least, but to be fair to the green car, it did also leave some space. It could have left a bit more space as a smart move, but when you're looking at it here, there is still some space. The apex is there, and there's still some space left even at this point. So yeah, I think I just have to there was no malice in it or anything, but I think I would have to put this down to the fault of blue primarily. But obviously, as always, let me know your thoughts in the comments and in the poll in the top right, who you thought was at fault, and we'll move on to the next clip. So the title of this clip is "His Early Braking Caught Me Out." So we'll see what he's talking about with early braking here. Obviously following each other, trying to get slipstream off each other. Coming up to the corner up here, I think it happens. It's a little nudge and he gets sent off. Now, I think this is a pretty standard one, and the reason that I wanted to include it is because his early braking caught me out isn't really a defense for something like that, and especially the braking wasn't that much earlier, to be honest. And yeah, a hit from that angle, as we've just seen, if the attacker is not more than halfway alongside, then it's the attacker's fault. Obviously, the crash happens here at that point, and it's clear that it's front end of the defender hitting the rear end of the attacker, just like we've seen with the previous clip. And yeah, I don't think you can say that was anybody's fault except the black Mazda. The white Mazda didn't do anything. He braked and took his racing line, and you can think that it was early braking from him. In fact, let's have a look. Let's see when the brake lights come on with the white car in comparison to the black car. Let's see. So we're coming up. Brake lights come on. Where are we going? They came on at exactly the same time. The brake lights came on at exactly the same time. Wait, what's the thing to move forward a frame by frame on YouTube? Someone told me and I've completely forgotten. Is it this? No? Oh yeah, there it is. There we go. Perfect. Alright, frame by frame analysis. I didn't know you could do this until someone mentioned it. Thank you, whoever that was in the comments. So we're looking at the brake lights for both of these cars. It looked exactly the same time to me. Just from... God damn it. Alright, let's scroll back. To the frame. They braked at exactly the same time. To the frame. So you can't say his early braking caught me out. Humans have a level of reaction time. And if this was reactionary, if anything, it's the black Mazda that braked early, frankly, because it braked much sooner into the corner process. They came on at exactly the same time. So early braking, even though that isn't an excuse in the first place, it certainly isn't an excuse when you brake at exactly the same time. And they brake, they turn into the corner, and yeah, this isn't the line for the corner. Really, these two are on the line for the corner. It's just a bit of a messy, again, another kind of messy attempt, half-hearted attempt at an overtake, which, it didn't pan out. It wasn't really ever going to be an overtake either. And that's entirely on the black car's fault for that one. So that's my decision. You can vote as always in the poll in the top right. Was it the black car's fault? Was it the white car's fault? Or was it just a racing incident? You guys let me know, but yeah, for me, I can't put that down to anyone but the black car, especially when the argument of why it happened has just crumbled before our eyes. So, yeah, There we go. Alright, so I've had this clip for a while. It's supposedly a championship fight in a sort of league race championship deal between these two, and obviously the blue and the yellow were going for the championship. So I'll let the first lap play. I don't know whether they were going for the championship in this race, but they were, sort of going for the championship during the season, and this was one of the later races, supposedly, according to the notes that were left for the submission. But so it looks like there is a bit of blue and yellow for this one, but we'll call it primarily blue. Blue gets a bit of a better run. They're side by side, and then have a coming together there. Alright, this could be a tricky one. Do we have some other... We do. Alright, so... See, it looks like the reason that this is tricky to me is because of the angle that both cars are... Alright. Okay, yeah, this is good. We're getting some different perspectives from this. So, first of all, essentially we're going for an inside overtake as the yellow car. We've hung it around the outside of the previous corner, and we're going for an inside overtake on this right-hander. Now, at this point, I would say that we're far enough ahead to be deserving of some space. See that? Well, that's the main issue I have with yellow on this. Straight away, is the angle that yellow is at. Because, but then, he is up the inside, really blue. I don't know. You can kind of see it both ways, because blue should have been giving more space here, to be honest. There's so much track over here. He essentially, when you see it from his perspective, he just closes him out completely. But I don't think yellow does himself any favours with the angle that he's going at into the corner either. Both of them could have done smarter decisions here. On the other hand, blue is just kind of going straight. Now that I look at it slower, he's not turning to the right at any point. The car only shifts to the right when he gets hit. So he is leaving the space on the inside, and yellow doesn't utilize that space well enough for whatever reason, whether it was just, the car wasn't there under him to be able to do it, or he didn't have the ability to do it, or whatever. It's a tricky one, this. But to be honest, it was a complete takeout by yellow, really. When you're looking at it, if that angle is damning, this angle here, it really is damning on yellow to me, because he just drives into blue. In my eyes, the space is there for yellow to take. Blue isn't turning to the right; he's going straight. There's plenty of space here for yellow to be driving into, but instead of driving straight towards the track, he essentially drives to the left into blue. And if anything, if you think that you can't, get an overtake done at that point, you just brake and back out of it. I think blue was far enough ahead at that point to at least, especially you can see where the contact occurs. It's going to be a racing incident if they make contact further up and yellow is trying to follow the line of the corner. But I think blue is. I know I said earlier that there's plenty of space for blue on the left, but he doesn't necessarily. I don't think he has to use that, to be honest. He's still ahead. I'm going to put this more on yellow's fault, honestly. I think especially with the consequences of that, it seems like yellow pretty much gets away with it, but blue is, out of the race completely with damage. I would be saying that yellow is deserving. That's bad enough that yellow is deserving of a penalty for that, frankly. So you guys let me know what you think. I think just the angle, he's not trying to follow the line of the track. He's continually moving, he just moves into the blue, where blue is just going straight. So I think there is more responsibility on yellow in that one for that crash happening. Again, I could see you guys doing it either way, giving it to more yellow's fault, more blue's fault, or just putting it down to a racing incident, to be honest. I couldn't argue with certainly saying that it was just one of those things, but I think the nature of the crash, the fact that yellow is constantly turning to the left really into blue when blue is just travelling straight and the track goes round to the right, I think that would make me put it more on the fault of yellow for that one. So poll in the top right, you vote, let me know what you think. Was it blue's fault? Was it yellow's fault? Was it just a racing incident? It'd be interesting to see what you guys think about this one. Not only in the poll, obviously, like I said, but in the comments as well. I'm intrigued by your thoughts and the way that the poll goes and who you would primarily be to blame. I think if you were either driver, you could probably feel maybe a bit aggrieved by each one, but I would just say that, from my eyes, that was more on the fault of yellow, frankly, than it was blue at that point. So yeah, you guys let me know what you think. Alright, so final clip back on GTA, and we're coming up to okay, that was a bit of a mess. Alright, let's go back and can I slow this down? Yeah, okay. Right, so we're coming up to a section of track that we're obviously all in the same cars, but we're coming up to a section of track that is a bit thinner, I guess you could say. Having said that, there's still plenty of space for two cars to get through here, I would say. And obviously, the speed that this happens, I think, doesn't help anything because, the guy that is coming around the outside to overtake comes out of nowhere. But I would say that, and this is kind of human nature, to have these little twitch moments when you're racing, but there is a little bit of a twitch moment from the white, moves over to the right just there. And I would say that he caused that crash. Because, there was space for both of them to get through. Blue was, at this point, just slightly ahead, so he'd done enough to be... If he was a little bit behind, I would say that white would have been within his rights to just continue a line straight on, and blue should have, backed out of it. But blue is far enough alongside to be deserving of space, so really they should both be trying to get through here cleanly. And then we'll just see it there, whether it was, the curb on the left that sent the car to the right, or it was just a sort of instinctive little twitch that moves him to the right, or if he did it on purpose, I don't know. But this movement to the right by white is what causes the crash. There was plenty of space, especially at the point of impact there. I mean, look at all this space that blue has left of the track, and all this space over here that white has the ability to use. So for me, that one is entirely on the fault of white. I don't think blue necessarily did anything wrong there by trying to go for that move. There was plenty of space for both of them. White just twitched to the right, and I think caused that incident. Blue obviously waits up there, but I don't think he needed to. I think white, that's just one of those things. If blue had continued on and white obviously got penalised in the race by spinning around because of the action that he took, but then that would result in it being a racing incident and no penalties given if it was a sort of event race or something. But for me, if we're trying to look at who was at fault for the incident occurring, I would say that I would put that on white. That's how I would vote in the poll, which should pop up about now. If you want to vote on who you thought was at fault for this incident, was it white? Was it blue? for coming out of nowhere, I guess, but I think he showed himself early enough in that, to be honest. Or was it just a racing incident, and you wouldn't put any blame on anyone necessarily? It was just one of those things that happens. Let me know in the poll and obviously in the comments down below for this clip and all the clips that we've seen tonight. So that's pretty much it for this episode. You can find in the video description all the info and links that you may need to submit your own clips, and if you'd like to support me, you can do so on Patreon by becoming a YouTube member or simply subscribing and liking the video. Thank you all so much for watching, I really do appreciate it, and I'll see you next time.